Okay, so when we are in our connection, when we're talking to our guides, if you closer you pay attention, the more you'll catch. Les and I had just had a great conversation about being tuned in to different dials. My paper just fell. I thought I didn't need this. Apparently I did. Guides were like, no, you need that. So Les, who was just talking about tuning in, handed it to me. So I was like, oh, let's pay attention to what's on that. So that's part of how I just work with my guides every day. I pay attention, right? I'll also ask questions. So they're really, really good at problem solving. So this is ask about questions to solve a problem. So we're humans and we have all these challenges coming up. Even when you're doing your cards, the power is in the questions. So the more direct a question you ask your guides, the more direct the answer you're going to get. And just tell me what I need to know is okay, but tell me what I need to know about love. What do I need to know about career? What do I need to know about this day? What do I need to know about this minute? What do I need to know about my health? Right? There's so many cool questions you can ask. The more direct your question, the more you're going to get it. Now, again, you want to ask who is answering me, right? Just because you're playing with cards, unless you've blessed them and said, can this operate in the highest good? Maybe it's not the highest good. And then you're confused because one deck told you one thing and another deck told you something else, but it's because one was blessed and one wasn't. You'll find this in where you buy them, right? All the decks that you purchase from me have all been blessed, so they work in your highest good. But maybe if you buy it off Amazon and somebody who hates their job, maybe not so much. Not saying they don't, but maybe not so much. So problem solving is a great thing, and it's also a great way to start gaining trust with your guides, right? If they tell you an answer to a problem and it works out, it's like, oh, okay, that works. What else can I do? Right? That's why I do suggest if you're working in this, you start working with maybe a card a day. That's a great way to just easily connect to your guides. So how else can we start communicating? So number one, be more present in your day. Stop dropping things.
The same one?
Nope. Don't worry if you're getting super specific or life-changing information. Much of what your guides will want to convey is simple, uplifting, and filled with love. They may have reasons for withholding certain information. That's a good point that I almost missed. If you're asking a question and you can't get an answer, you're probably not meant to know. It could affect your decision and it could affect your journey. Or try asking it in a different way. Or if you're asking about somebody else, you can't affect their free will. Right? Guides can tell you to write a book, but if you never pick up a pen, you're not going to write a book. Right? Everybody has their free will. It's lovely. We love free will. It's so great, their free will.
It just reminds me of the thing, somebody's on a roof or something in a flood and they're praying, oh God, please help me, please help me. So God sends so then comes by boat, comes by a helicopter with a light, and they don't take it. And it's like, God, why did you forsake me? Well, I sent a boat and I sent a helicopter, but you didn't take it. Right?
That's my favorite story.
I know, I love it.
Right? Yeah, you have to take action. Guides can give you all the guidance they can, but if you don't take an action step, your human's going to stay stuck. So one of my greatest gifts is action. I think it, I do it. Now, is it always the best thing? Yeah, usually because I ask for guidance on it, right? So because I've set up this kind of program. Now, do I always listen to my guides? Oh, no. Do I listen to my guides or I hear that they're supposed to do something and do it else anyways? Yeah, that happens. And then they're like, we told you. And I'm like, I know. Usually just makes my life more difficult. Right? So it's not that I do anything bad. I just take the long way around. And it's usually because I didn't trust or because I couldn't see the way because I think I have to see everything. Yeah, they have the bigger perspective. So why do I think I need to see what's coming down the road? Right? Especially if they're there, my highest good. So being more present every day in your life, recognizing messages. And if you're not sure what they are, just write them down because it's so cool how Monday will then lead to Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday, Saturday. And you're like, oh shit, I see it. Right? And if you paid attention and you grab the breadcrumbs, you get to Saturn and you're like, oh yeah, I totally get what I'm supposed to do now. So anytime you write it down, it's going to be important. Stay on the lookout every day from signs for your guides. Now, you can manifest signs. So you got to watch this, right? You can set something up though and say, every time that I'm on the right path, show me a red bird. And they'll do that. Or you can say, show me an unmistakable sign when I'm on the right path. That's usually an easier one because then they can give you like more things, right? So you'll have synchronicities, you'll recognize something. I'll say something that's like totally deja vu. It's like it's like totally I'm on the right path. Start a spirit guide journal. Those are really interesting. So you're basically writing letters to your guides, asking for help. And then when it shows up, you're like confirming it. Get to know your guides and give them names. So if you're connecting to something, they're in your highest good, ask what their names are. It's so much easier to get to know somebody if you know their name. It's also easier to call on that guide again. And that guide's going to have a certain energy and a signature. So you want to make sure that if you connect to Uriel, you feel how Uriel feels, right? So we feel in, what does Uriel feel like? Then if something comes through and says it's Uriel, but it doesn't feel the same, you want to question it. Because then chances are you have a trickster. And then are you hearing my highest good? And they're like, no.
I cannot tell it.
Yeah, right? Sometimes they'll just hesitate or change the subject. So that's still a lie. They have to answer you super clear. Are you hearing my highest good? Yes. Edwin sing to me the other day. Are you hearing my highest good? Yes, I am. Okay, what are we doing now? That was a high vibe. She does a light language. So she did like lullabies and stuff. But you'll get like kind of sick of it. So like when I work with people, I'll be like into it and they'll be like, aren't you supposed to ask me a question? I'm like, are you hearing the highest good? They're like, yes. So they were like waiting for me to. So I have to ask this with every client I'm working with, right? Even though it feels like totally obvious you're hearing the highest good, still doing the process. And surrender. Once you find you can surrender things to your guides, you can say, you know what? I can't do it. I've done my action steps. Have I done my action steps? Yes. Okay. You have done my action steps. Okay. It's your job now. You go out and make it work. Right. So when we get into this co-creating, it's really awesome because we do our part as a human and then we call in the guys to do the rest. Now you have to do your part as a human though. If you don't do your part, they're not going to do all the heavy lifting for you. It used to be a time where they would just lead us because we were still learning. We're past that time now. We're no longer children as a human race. It's time for us to start taking action steps on our own. Does that make sense to everyone? There was a time where it was like super obvious Spirit wanted you to go this way. But now it's like we're all like a little bit lost because it's not super obvious anymore. And it's because it's time for us to grow up. Learn more about spirit guides. Excellent. We're doing that in this class. And also improve your intuition. Practice, 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 practice. Does everybody know where their intuition comes from? Is it truly from your gut though?
I don't know.
Right. So this is a trick. You want to. So hindsight is 20/20, and that's kind of the easiest way to do it. So if you were intuitive about something, even if it was wrong, ask where it came from in your body. Right. So if your intuition told you to go to that party, but you didn't go, and now you really missed out on things, see if you can backtrack and say, okay, well, where was that coming from? Right? That's kind of the easiest way. And then start paying attention because ego and intuition kind of hang out in the same place sometimes. And you get a little bit like it's fear-based, but it's really ego. It's not your intuition. So it gets a little kind of crazy. I did teach a class in intuition. So if you want to talk more about that, we can. Simply send your guides a message in your thoughts. This is a great way, but if you write it on paper, even better, right? Because we have so many thoughts going through our head all the time. If you are like super clear, this is what I need to know. Even when you're doing cards, this is what I need to know. It's going to be much easier for them to answer you. Now, when spirit guides are talking to you, I know people like to say that there's a story and they told me this and it was 60 pages long. Spirit guides, really, when they're talking about you, they usually talk in like one word, sporadic, or in images. Right? So if you get a whole story, chances are that's your logic mind, or your imagination, or your ego. So if you're like, should I take this job? Well, if you take this job, that girl Samantha is going to be a bitch. And if she's a bitch, then we're going to have a hard time every day. So if we have a hard time every day, it's going to make us more stressed out. No, don't take the job. Is that a spirit guide? That's just your imagination making things up. And again, this is where a lot of people are getting a little twisted online because they're seeing a card, the card says yellow, and they're making up a 4-page story on it. And it's like, no, that's not what's happening. But you're coming along and eating it up, going, oh my God, she told me this. And now I'm not taking the job. And you've totally messed with your journey. So now you've gone the long way around. Your guides told you to go the shortcut. You didn't trust it. You reached for outside help. And around. Okay. Use divination tools. Things like a pendulum are really, really handy. Does everybody have a pendulum? No? Okay. We have pendulums here. We can talk about it. They're great for helping you kind of yes, know who you're connecting to. We can go through that on something else. Now, what do we do if we feel super disconnected? Anybody have any idea? Okay, so check your vibe. Raise your vibe up, right? Get rid of some stuff. Have a salt bath, shake it off, go for a dance, watch a movie, brain dump, right? Do something to clear the air, right? Get out of your own way, basically. So you want to do something to raise your vibration right away. And we know when we feel high or low. We know that. If you're reaching out in desperation, chances are you're not going to get the right answers. So maybe take a minute and say, you know what, I'm going to ask again in an hour. Right? Or maybe ask somebody you do trust that is tapping in. Right? When you just ask, then just kind of wait and sit. You can just put the question out there. So if you're having a really, really hard time and just say, you know what, spirit guides, I need to know how to make this easier in my life. And then like kind of set it and forget it. Go have your bath, go watch a movie, go do your thing. Chances are you're going to start, as you're raising your vibration, you're going to start to get the answers and things are going to and they're going to unlock and they're going to unwind. Right? So you can ask in the depths. That's why people pray. They pray when they're really, really low. And then as they lighten up, the answers start to become clearer. Trust in your own voice. If you don't trust in your own voice, do some more work on that. Practice it. How you learn to trust yourself is keeping promises to yourself. If you say you're not going to eat pudding this week, don't eat pudding this week. If you're going to clean the house twice this week, clean the house twice this week. If somebody comes into your life and they're always telling you lies, you're not going to trust them. So if you keep lying to yourself, you're not going to trust yourself. Be still. Anytime that we're still, it's easier to communicate with our guides. That's why you get those shower thoughts. Right? When we're in the shower, we're not usually doing everything else. We're just showering. We're just washing our hair. And it's easier for them to talk to us when we're still. So even just taking like 2 minutes of silence, 2 minutes of like not doing anything. I find it really easy in this space to listen because like after you guys leave, if nobody's here, I won't turn on the music. I'll just kind of listen to the hum and everything just kind of floats in. I don't have all these distractions going on all the time. So doing that in your own space. If you don't have a chance to do it in your own space, just put noise canceling headphones on. Sometimes I'll listen to a meditation and then after I'll just sit there for 5 minutes with them on and I'll just listen. I'll listen to the spaces in between. And then I get great ideas. Have no expectations. So expectations are the killer of joy. And they're usually wrong. That's your ego. Create a channel. So a channel is how you can do it is again doing the white lights, doing the positive mantras, calling in, are you in my greatest good? This is like a safe channel you're creating, right? So it's like a safe container. If you've taken Reiki 1, I teach you circle protection. That's really strong. And you can create it within that. Always protect yourself. You would not ever go to sleep with your door unlocked. So make sure you're calling in the white light, calling in the angels, calling in the guides to protect yourself when you're doing any kind of work. It sounds like a cliche, but it's true. Develop a weekly or monthly practice. Anytime you spend time on something, what you focus on expands. So if you make it every Monday night, I sit and I hang out with my guides and I see what they have to say, even if it's just 10 minutes, it says that that's important, right? I'm taking this course for the next year. I got to show up. If I show up, I'm going to learn, right? If you treat your spiritual practice as that kind of a practice, show up, they're going to teach you, right? Consistency is key. This is why religions do work, because they're consistent and they have rituals, right? So when you go to a church, you have good thoughts because it's a church, a place of peace, right? If you make that when you sit in front of your meditation or your altar and you have good thoughts because it's a place of peace, you can create that at home. And if you do it, like I teach every Sunday, it's kind of a ritual. Everybody's here, they're ready, they're learning, they've turned it on already, they're comfortable, they're expecting it. It's way easier to learn things. That is the last thing. Also write things down. If you don't understand, write it down and say, can you expand? So say you get the word squirrel. Okay, squirrel. Write it down. I heard you squirrel. What does it mean? Okay, you're nuts. Okay, cool. So I'm nuts. Why do I need to know I'm nuts? Like, and then just kind of expand on it. Pen and paper is so powerful, and it helps us really sort things out in our mind and get out of that logical. And then what I like to do is I like to take a minute and I'll come back and I'll reread it. Because then when I come back and reread it, then I can see the connections from a different place. Right. So initially, what I'll do is I'll just write things down, not question it, just write it down. And then when I come back, I'll question it. Right. So I like kind of close it and then I look at it as a whole. And then I can usually get a lot more information than if I was just trying to dig in the first time. Now you can still ask questions, but just write down what you hear. Right. Don't be like questioning it going, that doesn't seem right. Just write down what you hear. And it's so fun when we do this. Like if I do this with clients, they'll make up words they've never heard of. And it's because somebody's telling them. Often your guides will use your own Rolodex though. So if there's something that you relate to, say unconditional love, they'll show you a picture of a puppy. Or say they show you a picture of a bell. It means sound therapy, right? So take your images and then try to see what that means to you and then expand on it. Sound good? So what's the steps to start? Any idea?
Start what, working with God?
Working with guides.
Figure out who they are.
You can. I would first and foremost make an appointment. Right? So make an appointment to work with your guides. Ask who's connecting. Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock, nobody's in the house, so I'm gonna sit with my guides.
Okay.
Right? When you make an appointment in my space for a healing, we're making an appointment with your guides too. Right? Super easy when you come to my house because the guys are like, oh, we're seeing Teresa at 10. They usually start talking to you in the car on the way there. We've got so many things to talk about, right?
Yes.
So that's like a really super clear, right? Like this human wants to work in her spirit guides today. And then you can light a candle. You can just call in the guides that have the highest vibration, greatest intention, divine love. And then you can ask a question. And before you listen to anything, make sure they're there in your greatest good. And you can ask, what kind of guide are you, right? There's helper guides that are out there, and they kind of do a whole bunch of things. So they're like labor ready guides. So for an example, I could call through a business guide if I was doing a business strategy. I could say, I need a business guide to assist me in the strategy. Somebody would come through. I say, are you here? My highest good. They say, yes. And okay, can you help me with this? So it's kind of like Google of the spirit world, right? But again, you want to see where your source is coming from. And you want to make sure that applies to you, right? Okay. So there's a prayer by Archangel Michael. I think I'll stop and then I'll do that on a separate one. And I'll just get you guys to close your eyes and we'll connect with Michael. So we'll stop this.